Without a vision, the people perish. Welcome to Vision Plus, a program featuring a positive outlook, dealing with everyday situations of marriage, children, and business. Believing Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Teacher, author, speaker, delighting audiences from New York to Sacramento with a heart and message for the people today. Bonnie would like to remind you of the 800 number on the screen. Please feel free to call at any time throughout the broadcast and share your concerns. Leave your prayer request and someone will pray with you. And now, teacher, author, and speaker, Bonnie Libhart.
Hello and welcome. I'm Bonnie Libhart along with Joanie Erkilitz, and we are going to have something that you need to know. And whether you need to or not, you want to know. And whether you want to know or not, your children and grandmothers want you to know. And you'll have to find out what it's all about, because it's something that each one of us must, not a good word usually, but we must do for ourselves and for all of our loved ones. And that is before the time comes that some of our loved ones go on to be with the Lord, we need to know how to prepare for that, what to do in the years, months, days, weeks ahead of time when someone passes. I know that when my dad he was in the bed a long time, and I think maybe Alzheimer's. They didn't call it that at the time, but it was something, and my mother had to take care of things, but she had about 8 years to learn how to do the books and do the take care of all of the bills and things. But there's a lot of people that all of a sudden they now have to do everything. I know one friend of ours, the dad passed away, and the mother had never even written out a check, didn't know how to drive a car, didn't have family members that could come around. But you're going to find out something today from Joanie that I'm looking forward to hearing, and I'm sure you are too. Joanie, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes. Now, Joanie, tell us a little bit about yourself. I met her recently, and she says the word Hawaii correctly.
That's because we lived in Hawaii for more than 32 years.
Really? Mm-hmm. And what all did you do in Hawaii?
Played golf.
Okay.
And played bridge. Very active in the military with the military wives in the Navy.
I heard about these Army wives. Is that you?
Oh, yes, there were those also.
Then you came to Huntsville, Alabama. So everybody's trying to go to Hawaii for vacation, but how did it happen that you came to Huntsville?
My son came here with his family. He accepted a job here, very much like what he was doing in Hawaii, and accepted the job and moved here, and he insisted that we come here also so that we wouldn't be left behind in the islands.
Now, you moved to Village of Providence. Yes. Tell me about your experience with finding out about Village of Providence. How did your son find out about it?
Well, when he was here for interviewing on his job, he asked to be shown around in case that he did move here. And so he was shown Providence and Hampton Cove and various outlying areas because he wanted to be near his work, which he is, 4 minutes away.
All right.
Yeah.
And then he went back to Hawaii. How am I going to learn to say that correctly? But anyway, I'm getting closer. and then brought with him some brochures that you looked at and learned a little bit. How did you go about picking out where you wanted to live?
Well, the book, the catalog, if you will, of the homes here in Providence. We looked at very, very carefully until we knew each one by heart, and were able to see them on the internet, the interior, and we learned a lot about the village and the outlying areas. And we certainly liked what we saw here and agreed to move here. We were ready for another adventure from Hawaii, and came here almost a year ago, and we love it so much.
I met her at, she and I, either one, don't have really children that were PTA members, but we joined the PTA. Well, she had a granddaughter. That helped a lot. But I always like to stay active. I was PTA president, so I always want to be active in whatever's going on around the community. And so that's when we met. And she was so sweet to speak to me, and we just immediately enjoyed meeting each other and have been friends since that time we joined. And now, you had gone through a lot. Tell me about your husband. He was mowing the lawn last time I saw him, which seemed like a very short length of time ago. And then what happened?
He just unfortunately keeled over and died in the floor. It was just a matter of seconds, really, by the time I called the paramedics. He was feeling on top of the world. He had just been home a few days from visiting Salt Lake City, where all of his family lives, and had been home about 4 days. That's probably when you saw him cutting the grass when he got back home. But it was totally unexpected because he was pronounced in excellent health just about a week before that happened. So,
Joanie, that's got to be the way we all want to go.
absolutely.
I mean, live a full life and then say goodbye.
Yeah,
And this,
Chuck's wishes.
and I know my mom was 96 when she passed, and she was like in charge, totally control freak until the day she was like, okay, bye-bye, and that's exactly what I would want to do. I just think it's sad, like my dad that was ill for so many years, and that's just difficult for everyone. Now, tell me about how to prepare for, even though it was sudden, what all should we do to be ready, whether it's 8 years like my dad or instantly like your husband? What should we spouses do to prepare?
Certainly, I think the most important thing we must remember is all the paperwork, the financial, the insurance, the property. It entails everything, because I had sort of gotten away from all of that after my husband retired, and hadn't really done any of that for about 30 years. So it was really, really hard and complicated trying to get back into that again, finding all the filing, because his filing system was his own. I mean, it was very difficult to find anything in his filing system. So I had to, we had to get death certificates, which I knew nothing about, all the government papers that have to be taken care of immediately, and just everything, all of it, and knowing where everything is. He says, well, the important papers are in this lockbox, so you look in there, and they're not, the ones you're looking for aren't really there. Retirement papers have to have the certificates, and all the dates have to be so accurate for the death and everything that we have to go through to locate, to tell people who need to know these things. That was really hard for me. So my family, they really were very helpful in making sure that everything was done correctly. And Also the finances, the checkbooks, the bookkeeping, everything is involved.
So what was you first of all had to get the death certificate.
We had to go to a mortuary, and one was recommended to us, which helped us immensely. And so that was really the beginning of what to do when this happens to someone, because we don't know. I had no idea about what all is involved in a death, a sudden death. I think it's a little bit more nerve-wracking than one who goes on for years and years, although it can be very painful, I realize, for someone who has suffered for many, many years. But this is the way Chuck chose to go. He said, I want to just go right now. So that's what happened.
So what are some of the other, when you say the finances, what were some of the finances that you have to identify when he said they're all in this locked box, and in fact they weren't all in that locked box? How do you go about knowing, what would you recommend if there's people listening that know they don't have a clue where some of those papers are? What do? You start with the safe deposit box or a safe if you have them at home. And what are some of the financial papers you need?
Well, first off, if people have a retirement pension, which I think most people are looking very, very seriously at in today's world, because in 30 years from now, the prices are going to be out of sight for expenses. And so I found that the checkbooks need to be found and brought up to date. The signatures need to be changed. The accounts need to be changed since there's a deceased member. And the probate, trying to avoid probate, is one of the most important things, because that can go on for indefinitely practically. And so you must...
Joanie, explain probate, what that is and what you mean.
They go to court, and you must be able to be sure that everything is done correctly, by the law, as far as the estate goes, with all the insurance, bank accounts, pension, everything is involved. So if there's one thing that we cannot account for, they have to go to probate to make this possible, to be able to find every little part of the of what is involved with the estate, the deceased estate.
So you had a will. I'm sure you encourage everyone to have a will. Don't even think of allowing the government to take your money. And if you don't have a will, they will take a big, 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 big chunk. And so then what are some that go to probate for things you cannot prove?
Exactly. Or actually to be able to take over a certain part of your husband's business, because if your signature isn't on any of those important papers, you've got to do something about it, something legally. And for instance, like savings accounts, if you have an individual savings account, let's say, if it's just in your name, then you can't touch it. Your spouse couldn't touch it after the death. So that's one of the things you have to be very certain about, is making sure that you have signatures on accounts, or a co-signer, something like that, that is can become very, very complicated.
why do you think that we don't have, both spouses do not have their names on some of it? Is it just oversight?
I don't think so. I think it's just that we all like to have something we can call our own, something privately, like oh boy, it's my secret spending account, that type of thing. Pocket money.
I want one of those quick.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
But if you don't, how do you even get access to that? Does your will say that you get everything, or how? How do you get access to that one if your name is not on it?
You go to probate. And the signature, you've got to make sure that you sign all of these forms allowing you to claim this specific account or whatever it may be. Same thing as automobiles. You've got to change the titles, the certificates on automobiles, or anything else that was owned by both of you.
What are some of the specific things that you maybe did not have? Do you have anything you would share with us that was very difficult for you, that specifically that you wish you had thought about it 5 years ago, 3 years, a year ago?
Well, that can be our wills, because the last wills we made, I think, were in 1986. And it was important that we bring those up to date, and that was before Chuck's departure. So we started doing that last fall, and it wasn't completed. The attorney said, well, I'll call you when the papers are ready to sign. Well, that didn't happen. So the old wills were accepted for partial of the new wills, but that is very, very important, that people have their wills brought up to date. I think it should be done yearly, or certainly maybe every 6 months, because we forget we even have them. And there are usually changes that come about during the years, but that was a problem.
I know of one family that they had everything to go to the grandchildren instead of the parents. Now the parents, if they were underage, they were the ones that were taking care of the grandchildren. But at the same time, if that had to happen with you, you have a 10-year-old. We're admitting she's 10 years old. Yeah, granddaughter. And so she would have to have her parents, your son, to be in charge of her money until she was 18 or 21 or whatever. And
a college fund, an educational fund that most grandparents, like to start sometime during the child's younger life. But it's extremely important.
And I was thinking about, you have 2 sons, 2 daughters in love, I like to call them, and then they have children, but the daughter passed, the granddaughter, and the son might need a caregiver. It could be the grandson. So how do you make your wills for your children, say 50% goes to this child, 50% if you have 2, and then take care of those grandchildren? How can you make those wills to cover extenuating circumstances?
I think the most important thing is to take care of it while you're still alive. If you want to start an education fund for them, do it now. Keep putting into it now. Don't wait until the will has to be read, because things can change, during the years as the child becomes college age. I just think it's very important for instance, now, you think about willing certain things to your grandchildren or your daughter-in-law, whomever it may be. As you grow older, you want certain people in the family perhaps to have one particular piece of jewelry or whatever. And our attorney suggested that we do it now. He said, don't put it in a will, do it now. Give the piece to the person you want to have it now, so that there's no question about who should have it.
Oh, so you're not just saying put it in the will now. You're saying give that piece of furniture or whatever, jewelry, to that person now. But what about in your situation? Tell us about your grandson, who is very active in the Special Olympics, and so are you.
Well, he is. He has been most of his life, because he's was born handicapped and has been all of his life. However, he has grown stronger, and he's able to play most sports, which he's very active in. And if his parents were to die suddenly, or in a car accident or something like that, he will go to his mother's brother, and his aunt and uncle, his wife's brother, and his family will take care of him.
Your son's wife's, their sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Tell me how that came back. Tony and I worked on, Tony was on the John T. Gray School Cerebral Palsy and, any birth defects, and worked on that. I worked with them raising money mostly for 6 years, but Tony was also on the board. What happened in his situation? He was born a handsome little beautiful child.
Well, when he started school, the teachers discovered that there was something wrong, because he wasn't learning. He wasn't able to grasp the teaching that they were doing, and he had polio when he was born, and had some brain damage that wasn't really clearly known when he was very, very young. And so he was discovered handicapped when he went to school. So after several years, I think he was probably about 7 or 8, when he began going to special schools, special education, special teachers who were trained for this specific education. And he went there his entire time and graduated from high school.
And was really smart in computers, wasn't he?
Yes.
Oh, it seems like if God takes away, I don't mean God takes it away, but if a child has one deficiency, he has just blossoms in other areas.
It seems to be true with so many handicapped people. Mm-hmm.
Now, you have had a special love and help for Special Olympics, and then he has worked with Special Olympics.
Exactly.
What all does he do to help?
My son's is very, very active. He so much so that he coaches a lot of the games, and he's a driver who takes the kids wherever they need to go if there isn't enough transportation. He's always been there to help. So a lot of parents aren't as active, so he does enough, for a lot of the people who don't or cannot. They don't have the funds to go all over the place. At the various tournaments, they go to Santa Barbara and San Diego for tournaments, and that includes basketball, baseball, hockey, floor hockey, bocce ball, just about everything.
I don't know what bocce ball is, but it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. It sounds like something I do. Yeah, on the lawn. Now, what I hear you saying, or you correct me if I've not heard it right, is number one, have a will be, and update it yearly, if not even as close as every 6 months, especially if there's a possibility of some changes. Like our daughter that got killed, that was the Russian interpreter. To tell you the truth, I don't know if we've made a will where she's not in the will. So I can see we need to make some changes there. And maybe we did, but that would be terrible to go to the last, to something happened to Tony and me, and they'd have all that to put up with. So, mhm. What? And then you want to make sure you can locate documents. And again, go over some of the documents they need to have. Your son and your two sons need to be able to locate.
Yes, that is. Yes, yes. Make sure that all the finances are in order as often as you can. Even if the two children of the couple whom we're talking about, as far as finances, the husband and wife need to be very sure that everything is up to date, and that should be almost all the time, because we never know, what's going to happen tomorrow. So
you found that out. And then after the spouse passes, the spouse that's still here needs to change the wills again. And
everything has to be changed and brought up to date after the deceased spouse. And so sometimes you can forget, oh, I forgot that, or you've got to tell the military all about the new situation, and they have to know, and there's just all kinds of things that have to be squared away.
Well, actually, we have it's a little booklet that tells you what to do. I should have brought it in here. I think I saw it this morning, and we have a plastic box that we have inside of the safe. But if anything happened, if you grab that box, that plastic expandable folder, it has, and we learned it after something like what you're talking about, which has all of the, I'm sorry, I thought I unplugged the phone, but I didn't. It has like our birth certificates, it has Social Security cards, it has where IRAs are, where
papers.
So, and it has all of those, maybe some special silver certificates or something that you might have. And so and where how you want the direction of if you want cremated like my brother and his wife do, or if you want to have a certain ceremony at your funeral, and how certain songs, How Great Thou Art, or whatever it is, needs to be written down now. Yes, it does. So you're alive, you're watching this program. So I want to thank you very much, Joanie, because I think this has been a big help for Tony and me.
It's been great to talk to you too, Bonnie.
And I think that it's going to help a lot of people. Just go on and do it. Don't put it off.
Yes, exactly. It's really, really important.
I want you to thank Joanie Erkilitz. Right. That's here in Huntsville, Alabama, via Hawaii, and that she is helping us so that we will know what to do when the time comes and we're not thinking maybe as clearly as we should be, but it'll all be done and in that box put together. And thank you very much for sharing your time.
You're very welcome. It's been
so beautiful.
Bonnie.
You're beautiful inside now. And Joan Detchamendi tells me you've been going to Sunday school or thought about going to Sunday school with her. And I know Deb Berry said you went with her. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for joining us today. I know Miss Gladys is watching and some other people. And this good idea, go do it in the next 24 hours, along with Tony Libhart, Bonnie Libhart, and Joanie Erkilitz. Bless your heart for watching.